Good morning, everyone. I would like to give a homily today based on the fact that I had some coffee and I should do okay. This is about relationships and the myopic, the myopic view that we often have. And I'm going to present it as I did at the Lancaster Metaphysical Chapel in Lancaster, PA. It's called Snapshot. And I'll just read it as I did. Good morning. Today's reading comes from Khalil Gibran. One day, you will ask me which is more important, my life or yours. And I will say mine, and you will walk away never knowing that you were my life. This just gives me goosies, but it's a little sad. I mean, why would you let someone walk away not knowing how much they mean to you? I'm a Taurus. I'm all about the love and loyalty. So this just makes me want to know the rest of the story. And knowing the whole story is what I want to talk to you about. Every story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And a good story encounters conflict, usually at or near the beginning. In an article at thoughtco.com, Grace Fleming writes, "What makes a good book or a movie exciting? What makes you want to keep reading to find out what happens to stay until the end of the movie? Conflict. Yep. It is a necessary element to any story, driving the narrative forward and compelling the reader to stay up all night reading in hopes of some sort of closure. Most stories are written to have characters, a setting, and a plot, but what sets apart a truly good story from the one you may not finish is the conflict. That's entertainment. Not in real life though, right? I mean, there's nothing entertaining when the human suffering is our own. There comes a point when we have to wonder, what did I ever do to deserve this? I don't feel this world and our existence in it is completely random, although there is certainly room for all kinds of unplanned side trips. I have faith it was mapped out like a story written just for us, with all kinds of conflict that we signed up for. Yes, we did. These are the life lessons we agreed to. Some are easy enough to navigate, some are excruciating and feel never-ending. And there are plenty of blank pages inserted into our storybook to make room for many free will choices that will alter the course, to follow our dreams, to manifest an adventure, or to turn our circumstances around. That means there's plenty of room for mistakes as well. We make new choices all the time. Every decision you make can alter your path. Even the lack of a decision will affect your life. The simple formula is, you happen to life, or life is going to happen to you. Some people freeze, afraid of change or failure. Some people dive right in without fear or hesitation. I believe we're supposed to take risks, at least the calculated ones. Steering the course in your favor requires being mindful and taking deliberate action or a series of actions. Mistakes will be made, and whatever the outcome, consequences will follow. A healthy practice of mindfulness must also include taking responsibility for your actions, good, bad, or ugly, and being considerate of others as they manifest their own story. If you do step on a toe or two along the way, make the apology. Let someone know you cared enough to acknowledge it. Does anyone here know someone who never apologizes? Maybe it's always someone else's fault. Or maybe they go right to the excuses and never get to the sorries. Every little one of those incidences will come back to that person like a karmic confetti machine. Trust me. Don't mess with that. Let go of the ego and let the heart speak your truth. The first of 4 noble truths in Buddhism is that suffering exists and is unavoidable. I don't know why that has to be, but this is caused by the conflict in our personal stories. That's why we have to have faith to remind us. It's a coping tool from the divine that allows us that inner knowing that everything is in balance no matter what. We came here to experience the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I don't know anyone who hasn't suffered. Do you? I, for one, don't want to be someone that makes another being suffer. Even if they're horrible humans, I would rather have them learn the lessons that were put before them. I want the best possible good for everyone. And I want to believe that damaged people can make good choices. But even human beings successfully practicing mindfulness can make unpopular choices. And the more decisions you need to make, the more likely that is. You might have an awesome heart, but not everyone is going to love you. And you can't please everyone. It's not really possible. Is that what you're here for, though, anyway? I'm not. I haven't always made popular decisions. I've made mistakes. I have regrets. But more often than not, people don't get to see the reasons and the motives behind each decision. They often only see how it affects them because the ego steps in and says, "What? Why did you do that to me?" That moment seems to take priority over any effort it takes to uncover the reasons behind the action. No one sees your full story. Your whole life is not up there on the big screen. People are just seeing the trailer. The problem with that is they tend to judge on the basis of what is put before us. We do that. We all do that. It's human nature. It's actually a useful tool that we need to base decisions on. Unless you're mindful, though, we often don't stop to realize that what we're looking at is really just a snapshot, in linear time. To illustrate my point, I want to share 2 personal stories today. Once upon a time, many years ago, I was confronted with a situation about my relationship with a friend. We were collaborating on a long-term project. It didn't take long to discover this person was consistently late, forgetful, and generally not considerate of my time or the time of others. After putting up with this a few times, I didn't want to make waves, but I also didn't want to work with someone who was unreliable and unaccountable. It was a real stress I just didn't need at that time in my life. Sometimes we need to put the boundaries up, and we do that for our own well-being. And there's nothing wrong with that. As you can imagine, though, this decision wasn't very popular with this person, we'll say that. They only saw the snapshot of the situation, in part because I never told them how I really felt. My bad. I just kind of walked away. And to be fair, I only saw a snapshot of their life as well. There might have been many reasons why they couldn't keep up with their own schedule. I was never told. My only regret was that I didn't handle the matter differently because there was a big lack of communication. But I never regretted the decision I needed to make. And then the consequence came. This person decided to interpret that little snapshot they had and share their point of view with other people. Then the snapshot was second hand and third hand, and the picture gets more pixelated as and smaller, and it's just out of focus, just kind of like the old Xerox machines when you make a copy of a copy of a copy. If you're old enough to know what I'm talking about. The perspective was totally skewed. But in an attempt to bridge this communication gap, I was shut out and I wasn't given the opportunity to elaborate. That's the way it plays out sometimes. You cannot fit your head on someone else's shoulders. And you can't always stop people from drawing the wrong conclusions. My takeaway from this lesson was you have to communicate if you don't want someone to interpret just the snapshot without your narrative. I don't know how it would have come out anyway, but I definitely take a responsibility for that. And the best thing to do, if feelings are hurt, if all else fails, you've got to give it up to a higher source. My second story takes place where my story with Reverend Taja began. It started with Dave Nelson here at the chapel, who has since went into spirit and is sorely missed. You see, Dave was the first person that I ever interacted with here. And he had a real knack for making people feel special. He contacted me after hearing me on FM 97 here in Lancaster and invited me as a guest homilist and to teach a class. Well, Dave was a very, very enthusiastic person, and he was laying out the red carpet for me. I mean, we're talking about putting an ad in the paper, on the internet, and announcing my royal arrival weeks in advance. I thought, wow, this is really swank church. I got some flattering treatment the next few times I came as well. So here's where the snapshot comes in. Apparently there was some role changes at the chapel. And one day, Reverend Taja invited me to speak and offer a class. And of course I accepted. I asked her about, as the time went on, I had asked her about the ads and the promos, and I didn't get the same quick response that I was used to. And when the time was almost here, I contacted Dave, and he said he'd look into it. When I didn't hear back, my spirit guides gave me a message that made me start wondering why this Taja person didn't care for me. There was no red carpet, no limo, none of that. So finally we did speak on the phone, and this is where the communication is important. And our limited snapshots were revealed. Well, think about this. My snapshot looked like Dave was just doing the norm, and I didn't know anything different. And Reverend Taja's snapshot may have been that I look like a spoiled prima donna with high demands, but understandably so. Fortunately, because we were willing to communicate our feelings, this particular story did have a happy ending. We were able to laugh about it years later, and I'm very blessed to have her in my life. We all have colorful stories to tell, and they're filled with conflict and communication mishaps. Hopefully they have happy endings, but we know that they don't always. You have in your stories played the hero, you've played the villain, and you've played the victim. You have been slighted, you have been victorious, and you have felt shame. We all get a turn. You agreed to all these lesson plans, and no matter how alone you feel in your suffering, you must realize we're all in this together. It's true, you can't always fix things. And sadly, sometimes you just have to stop trying. But in many instances, you could be one communication away from healing, one word away from getting the love you want. Don't let a little myopic snapshot dictate the path you don't want to be on, and you don't have to be on. Make it your goal to get out of here with as few regrets as possible. It'll be worth it. Life is just too short. Thank you for listening. Have a great day, evening, morning. Feel blessed, be blessed, you're blessed. Bye.